to acknowledge that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships, both historic and modern, with the territories upon which we are located. Today, this area is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We acknowledge that our watershed forms a part of the treaty and traditional territory of the southeastern Anishinaabe. It is on these ancestral and treaty lands that we live and work. To honor this legacy, we commit to being stewards of the natural environment and undertake to have a relationship of respect with our treaty partners. Okay, so we're going to get going here. Can I have an adoption of the agenda? Kriya and Peter? All in favor? Carried. Okay. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? None seen. Okay. Can I have a motion to adopt the minutes of the last meeting of September? Well, it says 9, so I guess that's October 2024. Okay, Tracy and oh my goodness, Jerry, thank you. Sorry about that. All in favor? Carried. All right. Any business arising from the minutes? None? Okay. We don't have any deputations, so we're going to go on to 6. Presentations and applicable action item 6.1, Oak Ridges Moraine Groundwater Program. Positions to address water resource issues in Southern Ontario.
And I'll introduce our speakers here. We have a gentleman that stood up first is Steve Hollish. He is a mecca in the groundwater world. It's been my pleasure to work with him going back to my early days. And that's about when the groundwater program started with the York Peel Durham Toronto. At that point in time, it's changed name since then to the Oak Ridges Marine Groundwater Program. But Steve's been instrumental in improving geological science in Southern Ontario in that jurisdiction. And as a result of his and a lot of support coming in, it's internationally recognized as a program, and we're very lucky as an organization to be a part of it. Steve's got his own accolades as well in his community as a professional geoscientist. So, and we have the other gentleman is Mason Marshildon, and he's what Steve referred to as a god in the industry as well. So, Steve. Very complimentary to someone that's another key figure in the Oak Ridges Marine program. Groundwater program, and he's been working for consultants before he joined the program, Earth Effects, who is really tied closely. And so I think you have 15 years worth of experience in the overall kind of program as a whole, and it's making some of the products that you'll see in just a few minutes come to life. So my pleasure to introduce both gentlemen, and we have a spot here for you if you want. Just to kind of make yourselves comfortable there, and we'll get the presentation up for you.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, and thanks so much for the introduction, Mark. I appreciate that.
2 gods.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. Okay, so we're on the second slide already. So the first slide, if you go just to oh, okay, gotcha. Sorry. Okay, I'm with you. Next 100 years of water. I mean, I gave it a kind of a saucy title, but we're hoping that our program carries on for a long time. And I'll speak to that as I go through the presentation. But in the bottom, you can see there's lots of partner agencies tied to the program and what we're doing. And there's also another 25 consulting companies that are also using the information that we've pulled together under this program. So my clicker didn't work. So was it just down or the button? Down. Oh, okay. Sorry, got you. So we're working on revamping our website, and the professional marketing team said I always got to start my presentations with a story. So this is a story of a big pipeline that was put in between York and Durham region leading up to Aurora and Newmarket. And at the time this project was proposed in the late 1990s, the consultant said, you know, at this tunnel shaft where the big tunneling machine was going in the ground, the dewatering program would need 3 wells. You'd be pumping 3,000 liters a minute, and that would be wrapped up in 1.5 years. And in reality, turned out they needed 13 wells. They pumped 23,000 liters a minute, and it was a 6-year project. It cost tens of millions of dollars. It was a disaster. It was kind of hush-hushed because no one wants to talk about it. But these are the kind of issues in the subsurface that if you don't know about them, you can spend a lot of money and run into a lot of grief. So if you come to our website now, on our website, all of those black dots that you see there, you can click on them. We've put a memo field into one of our tables in our database. And now we have a short paragraph that says, hey, if you're doing any work in this area, beware. Back in the 1990s, $10 million was spent getting out of here. So be careful. And this is the kind of thing that as scientists, we don't do a good job of passing information, passing stories, passing knowledge to future generations. So all of these stories, if you're starting your career in 2050, you would want to know every one of the stories on this map. And we build on those, and we've interviewed retiring and a lot of technical staff from different agencies to get those stories. So I'm just going to give you a brief history of our program, why what we're doing we think is important, an overview, just a little flavor of what's up on our website and what we put together, and then just a few final words on the current situation where we fit in and so on. So our program started in the late 1990s as development was encroaching up on the Oak Ridges Moraine. The regions of York, Peel, and Durham got together, and they were hearing from their ratepayers that there was a lack of information on all sorts of environmental information, but in particular groundwater. And the moraine was in jeopardy of being separated in two. The province wasn't doing much. And so the regions led this initiative. And out of it, those 4 areas, they said they should work cooperatively on. And groundwater management was the one that we got started on. And in that report, it talks, you know, a lot of the points there, fragmentation of responsibility. This is common in water management, lack of coordination, incomplete data sets, inconsistent policies. So all of this resonates across all of environmental programs, but water in particular as well. So when we started, this is the situation. All of us as agencies, all the 15 partner agencies in our program would hire consultants to do work, the province as well. You spend hundreds of thousands of dollars drilling wells, collecting data, and those reports, when I worked in Halton, were active for about 6 months as a development application was reviewed. Then they went down into the basement, into storage rooms, off to Milton to a warehouse, and no one ever saw them again. All of that information flushed down the toilet, gone, never used again. It was crazy. So this is our program. We've tried to take a stab at changing that whole regime. So this is a contribution we made to a 2009 report by the federal government. They were asking, how do we sustainably manage groundwater in Canada? Our contribution was this pyramid here. And on the bottom is data management, data development. We put a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, early days when Mark was part of the program, assembling data. And it wasn't very sexy. It didn't give us a lot of accolades or anything, but over 21 years now, you'll see what we've put together. And once you have the data together, then you can understand the geology in the subsurface, how water moves through the rocks. You can put some sophisticated groundwater models together to further understand things that Mason has done a lot of. And then finally, all that hopefully leads to better decision-making. So why what we're doing is important. So this is a kind of a big, broader step back here. But in the last 2 years, there's 3 big points that resonated with me. And I thought I would bring them to your attention here as politicians and representatives of the community. But the first one is John Sherry, who's a really well-known international hydrogeologist from the University of Waterloo. And he's been giving a few talks over the last few years, raising alarm bells on the state of groundwater across the globe. Second point, the New York Times had a whole series of articles between August and January of this year talking about groundwater in the United States, and I'll talk to that in a few secs. And then last fall, there was a big national agri-food water action plan report that came out that I also took a look at. And so starting with that last report, there's a few points highlighted in yellow here that, we're Canada's, we're blessed with water, and really we should be obligated to have a leadership role in water management. And we're not really doing that right now. With the Canadian Water Agency coming around in Winnipeg that just got announced a month ago, that might change. Water security should be a strategic asset, and we've got to pay attention to water. Again, Canada, fragmented, siloed water management. And then it says watershed should be the basis for research and so on, which is good for us as conservation authorities. And then the last one, that major agri-food processors, they're looking right now where they're going to be moving to look for big, intense agricultural operations in water-rich areas like the Great Lakes. And they'll be looking for agencies that are not paying attention to their water. This is just a map I put in quickly just for your information. There's a lot of water being exported across the globe, and the countries shown in blue are net exporters of water, right? Canadians, we all get our backs up when people say, oh, we shouldn't export water, right? But we're exporting a lot of water and food, and no one thinks about this virtual water. And so I just put that up as a nugget of information that you can think about. There's a lot of water moving around the globe, and it's moving in food systems. So we're turning back to the New York Times articles. So America is using up its groundwater like there's no tomorrow. Aquifers that supply 90% of the nation's water systems are under threatening irreversible harm. So huge problems coming to the United States, and the United States is a huge food exporter across the globe. So this series of articles was called Uncharted Waters. It talked about everything from the East Coast sinking because of too much water being pulled out, bottled water, big, even Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes. McDonald's is pumping water to make beautiful French fries for us. Water issues even in Minnesota. Colorado River is shrinking. Our diet, what we choose to grow, what we choose to eat is really intense water usage, and people aren't paying attention. So that's a big topic. And then the third one I wanted to mention quickly is John Cherry's talk. So these are his slides. So, most of the largest store of water is groundwater. Most of the surface water in Ontario, about 60–70% of all the water in the lakes and streams and so on originates as groundwater and then moves out into the surface water system. And then when drought comes, groundwater is the only source of fresh water. And so groundwater, just FYI, is, it fills all the cracks in the bedrock around here, and in the glacial sediments, it fills the pore spaces in the sands and gravels, and it's everywhere. We're blessed in this part of Ontario with lots of water. So John shows the major aquifers across the globe, and 1/3 of these are depleted beyond recovery in human time. We're pumping water that is tens of thousands of years old, and we're running into a wall pretty quickly. Red countries are countries showing large populations that are living under water stress. The United Nations says it's not a problem. We'll just have to take more water out of the groundwater system by 2050, 30%. And that's impossible because the water's not going to be there. So no one's paying attention to the groundwater system. Disaster. I mean, again, these are John's slides, but he's done the research looking at Iran, India. Across the globe, we're running into water issues, and people aren't paying attention. And the planet is drought sensitive. Lots of areas experience drought. And again, that's when they turn to groundwater, but it's not going to be there soon. So John's conclusion is that we're spending a lot of time on climate change and the atmosphere, but water might hit us as a huge issue before climate change gets us. Okay, so now I'm going to turn to what we're doing about it. So that's sort of more just for your general information, that water is important and groundwater is important. So what we're doing in our program, we have a website. We've developed a website. We've been collecting and managing data for 20 some odd years now. And what we've done is collected all this information and put it into a number of themed maps on our website. You can see, you know, there's boreholes, there's geology, documents, and so on. So many themed maps. All of that information is at your fingertips. So there's a document themed map. So we've collected many consulting reports that previously get thrown in the garbage. You can now come to our website. We put XY coordinates on them, map them, and put them on a map here. You can click on any of the dots and you can pull those reports up. So there's reports in here from the 1890s, old maps from the Geological Survey. There's consulting reports from the 1960s. A lot of information historically that we've dug into and pulled out from different contacts and bringing it to today. And all the data from those reports, we track which reports have boreholes, chemistry, water levels, and has that information being moved into our database. So we have a nice systematic tracking of how we manage the data. We have a geology theme map. So here you're just seeing the ground surface topography. You can see in white on the west side, the Niagara Escarpment. In red, going across the middle of the map is the Oak Ridges Moraine. You guys are just north of the Oak Ridges Moraine here in Kawartha, and then up into the Canadian Shield to the north. We have the bedrock surface. So if you took away all the glacial sediment, this is what the bedrock would look like. And you can see that huge trough between Georgian Bay and Lake Ontario, the Laurentian Channel. Very significant feature in terms of groundwater movement and storage of water in there. We have bedrock valleys delineated, hummocky topography, everything you would need to understand how water is moving through our landscape here in Southern Ontario. The superficial geology, tops of the layers, we've done lots of cross sections across the whole area and define the geology. And you can do cross sections. You can cut a slice of the ground anywhere and see the interpreted layers that we've produced across the area. It's just the second one. You can do virtual wells. So in this case, up in the blue circle, I've drilled a well where there's no other wells. The wells are identified as black dots, but in that area, we could do a virtual borehole, look at what the geology might be below and where the water table is and so on. So that you could do that right across all of Kawartha Conservation Authority area. We have water table theme map. So this is showing all the water levels from all the shallow wells. And in, you know, brown is higher water levels, blue and gray is lower water levels. So the water level, the groundwater system is moving from the brown to the blue areas into the streams, really. And more importantly, sometimes is the depth to water table. How deep do you have to go before you find water? So if you're doing construction projects in the city of Kawartha Lakes, you could take a look at this map and say, oh yeah, son of a gun, the water table's only 1 meter deep. We're gonna need dewatering. Or it's 10 meters deep, we're probably gonna be dry and okay. So depth to water table, potential discharge areas. Where is the water table above ground surface and where might it be moving really actively into the streams and wetlands? And so this type of map is great for wetland ecologists, fisheries, and so on to look at potential discharge areas. And for the city of Toronto, they said, hey, can you show us where the water table is greater than 10 meters deep? Because we want to put parking garages, 3-4 story parking garages, but we have no room in the sewer system anymore for taking groundwater out of the ground, putting it in the storm or sanitary sewers. So they want to send developers to areas where they know that they will likely not encounter groundwater, and then vice versa, 1 meter. So here's the areas where you know you're probably going to find water really shallow. And then just there's a lot of stories in water level. So on the top there is a well from Cannington. So if we get monitoring data from the municipalities like we do from York, Peel, Durham, Toronto, and Halton, we can produce really nice graphs of the water levels over time. We have a lot of statistics looking at trends and the water levels higher in the summer, lower in the fall. How is the system responding? The bottom map, the bottom figure there shows the water levels from Aurora. And every line, every horizontal line is 10 meters in water level elevation. And so you could see from 1984, a real decline in water levels in York region. You can see the seasonal peak. It's higher in the fall or spring, lower in the summer, year by year. 2008, that big pipeline came up and the wells got shut down and they started moving some of the Newmarket Aurora to lake water. and you could see the huge recovery in 2008. So there's a story in the water levels that we collect, and often people don't know those stories. And so as hydrogeologists, summarizing, we have to know about, as groundwater people, hydrogeologists, we have to know how much water is moving into the ground. So climate data, the precipitation and so on, and then how much is leaving the groundwater system. So we have an interest in surface water flows and precipitation and climate data. A couple of years ago, we put some value on what we've pulled together. And we came up, it's underneath the green there, but I think it says $833 million there, but this was a few years ago. We think we have about $1 billion in value in what we've put together. So we have 100 numerical models that each cost maybe $250,000 or more to produce. We've got all the wells, we've got water levels and so on. So a lot of value in what we've pulled together. And of course, like MasterCard says, it's priceless. So where do we, wrapping up here, right now we're in a current environment of where, regulations are changing. Everyone's focused on housing, wetland legislation changing, planning is changing. There's a lot of chaos and uncertainty. Technical staff at all agencies are spread thin. It's challenging to undertake proactive studies. I mean, everyone is really, we're in a period where everyone just really reacts, and it's very hard to get funding for proactive work, which we think ours is. And the environment is obviously much lower on the list of priorities than it was a few years ago. So where do we fit in? We think there's going to be a real need for leaders in water resource management. Maybe not immediately, but it's coming. I showed you why. Again, this comprehensive, holistic approach we've taken to groundwater, surface water, climate. We think we can, using our website, save lots of time and money for society. We're doing this for Ontario. We think that everything we've put together can make Ontario help to make better decisions for Ontario in terms of water management. Our website's built a little differently. We have a focus on technical staff, consultants and partner agencies, researchers, and the public is maybe a little bit third. So focus on getting data to people who need it. And the combination of data, stories, insights, tools, maps, everything that we have on the website, and there's tons on the website. We talked to your staff early this morning and gave them a 2-hour overview. We still didn't get to everything, but they have a better knowledge of what we're trying to do. And you guys are part of it. It's collective. It's not just us. We take data from all the partner agencies. We see it as a two-way street. And so a lot of the stuff is done. We've got a database structure, we've got applications, many that Mason has put together. We've got a great website, we've got metadata, we've done a lot of really good things. And we're hoping to be a long-term program, not just like consultants finished and done. And we think that collaboratively with the 15 agencies we have together, we think we have an opportunity to lead, not just Canada, but really the world in showing how to properly manage water. And then what do we expect out of our partners? We kind of want, you guys to understand the basics of the program, even though the program is going on, and, take pride in it, right? I mean, it's kind of your program. It's not just our program. It's, Kawartha, you're part of it. So we'd love you guys to champion it and say, yeah, we're part of this and we know how to manage water, especially to the province, because they don't know how to manage water. And I think that was my last slide. So hopefully I didn't take too much time and I didn't bore you.
Scared us.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm pleased to take any questions.
Okay, well, thank you for that, I think. So are there any questions? Jerry?
Yes, so I was kind of surprised. You're trying to tell me that most of the groundwater is heading towards surface water, which is the exact opposite that I would think normally, because most of the depths of the groundwater are way below any of the bodies of water we look at today, and they call them surface water. And we've talked here before about there's a big gap in how actual surface water gets to become groundwater. And I realized, from some experience down in the States, that they're going deeper and deeper to try to get irrigation because of a long term of dry times, which is always a circle, because it gets back to the point where now next thing we'll have floods because it's just a cycle of the climate. But anyways, I was surprised. So your interpretation is that most of the groundwater is migrating towards surface?
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
So,
yeah. If you look
it's
at
a slow elevation.
No, it's really basic physics. So if you look at, if you measure, so water moves from high energy to low energy. Okay, it's an energy gradient. And the energy is based, luckily for hydrogeologists, on the elevation of the water levels. So if you look at the water level elevations in all the wells, and that's what I plotted on the water table map, they're slightly higher than the lakes and the rivers. And so the precipitation falls on the ground, it soaks into the ground and drives topographically the water to the low areas. And the low areas are the streams and the lakes. So it's 100% opposite to what.
Well, you don't think there's any migration of surface water?
There can be. So if the water table is lower than a lake or a stream, then for sure, then it's reversed. Then you're right. There are places where that happens, no question. Yeah.
That was the big.
But in general.
People are always criticizing tile drainage, trying to get surface water off the land so that it can be used productively.
Right.
Oh, now you're taking away from the groundwater, but there doesn't seem to be any information that really tells you how much of that migrates straight down or how much of it goes down.
Yeah, we do a lot of, Mason does a lot of, I mean, you would call it hocus pocus if you didn't understand it, but a lot of numerical modeling that you can really sophisticated plot how the water moves in the subsurface. And so we do have estimations of how much moves in, like we know that about 1,000 millimeters falls on the ground every year. We know about 600 gets used by the trees and so on. And then the rest is split between running off and going into the ground. And based on the geology and so on, we I mean, we're not 100% certain, but
Yeah, I would just, the real world example for me would be, I mean, it's been fairly dry in Southern Ontario the last month or so, but the perennial streams are still flowing, right? That water, that's the groundwater. It's the streams that are intercepting that water table and it comes out and expresses itself. And that's what you're seeing when you're seeing these streams that are running.
So that
continuously.
Another part that you mentioned about these virtual wells that I could theoretically go on a computer and pretend that I'm drilling.
Yeah.
So that's been going on for a while.
Mhm.
Have you got any references that say, if I did that virtual thing 10 years ago and somebody drilled a well today, that they correlate?
Yeah, I mean, the geology doesn't change, right? So the geology is 10,000 years.
No, but the
water levels?
programming to get the virtual concept is not always as accurate.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. But with the subsurface, here we've got a lot of limestone. I mean, the glacial sediments are much more complicated in the shallow subsurface. But once you get to the Bobcaygeon, once you get into the bedrock, those layers were deposited in the ocean and they extend over vast areas. And so if I drill a well here and drill a well there a kilometer apart, and I know I've hit the Bobcaygeon formation and I know it's deposited in an ocean, I know I'm going to find in the middle. That's the kind of idea.
But I know if I drill a well even a couple of miles apart, they could be in two different streams.
Right? Water could be different, but the geology is the same. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
You got some.
You're absolutely, I mean, it is a guess that we're putting out there, but it's the most
accurate.
It's the most informed guess anyone could do based on what we have to make that guess.
That's why I was asking. Have you ever seen any correlation where you've actually done the guessing?
Oh, yeah, we're
then
surprised.
somebody
Sure.
really?
Could be surprised. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I just quickly, I have a quick comment maybe and question with it. So we take all our drinking water out of the lakes.
Mhm.
So that kind of scared me when you talked about how that's being diminished, like.
Yeah, around here, we're pretty good. Like Southern Ontario, we're water rich, right? That's what I'm saying is that a lot of these agri-food producers in the States, Kansas, they're running out of water, Wyoming, and they're gonna be moving up here, I think, or into the Great Lakes Basin.
So just on that.
Yeah.
I know in NAFTA, one,
Yeah.
they said no, water was not part of that, but it is. So I'm sure that NAFTA 2.0, definitely it was. So you would probably know that.
Yeah, I mean, bulk export of water is still apparently off the table, but with Trump coming, I mean, who knows?
Manifest.
Everything's off the table now, right? I mean.
Okay, that's fine enough of that. Okay. Priya?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that very interesting and scary presentation.
Yes.
First of all, just on the question of tiling for agriculture in the States, let's say where they are seeing long-term droughts, just sort of your opinion on that. And then secondly, when you talk about security of water for municipalities or provinces, could you just kind of spell out how you might see a framework for protecting this resource, which is coming?
Yeah, well, so on the first point, I mean, first thing that popped into my head is I saw a talk from a fellow from Oklahoma a number of years ago. And it wasn't kind of tile drainage, but similar idea. He was talking about reservoirs and he was complaining that Oklahoma was putting in a new reservoir. And he said, if you wanted to design the most efficient way to take water off of the continent and put it into the ocean, you would design a reservoir. And he said, I've started calling them evaporation basins in the States. So he said, when you talk to the politicians and say, oh, you want to build a new evaporation basin, he said that, they start changing their tune a little bit. So that, I mean, that popped to mind, but tile drainage in the States, I mean, yeah, I don't know a lot about it, but it shifts water, right? So you're shifting water from one bucket to another bucket that wouldn't happen naturally. So you're short circuiting the system basically and robbing it from the groundwater system, moving it to streams or wetlands. So it's not, you'd lose more water evapotranspiration because especially the further south you go. And then on the security issue, my thinking is always that if you have the data and you understand your system, then you can make better decisions. And so that's been our focus since I started my career, is really trying to be on top of the data so that anyone who wants to make a decision has the information available. And that is the key, right? So if someone is coming in and wanting to apply for permits to take water, we have the numerical modeling tools to say, okay, if you're going to pump 1,000 gallons a minute out of this well, here's our best guess on what's going to happen. This stream will be affected by 10%. That wetland will be affected. Your neighbor's wells will go down 2 feet, and that kind of thing. And we can predict all that. And so I think the system we've developed puts us in a great position to address future concerns. And that's what we're trying to do. Like, I'm not trying to scare anyone. We have lots of water around here. But people are gonna know that, and they're gonna be looking to say, how can we make use of it? And we gotta be ready for that.
I think, did Nestle's just pull out of Elora?
They did, yeah, they just sold. Yeah, so yeah, 1,400 people lost their jobs, but that is such a small taking, if you as a hydrogeologist, if you looked at it from a reasonable perspective, that wasn't a big taking.
Okay, Tracy?
Oh, thank you, through you, Chair. Looking for the positive on this. So when there was the regulation to amend the boundaries based on the green belt and the Oak Ridge Moraine, when there was pushback with the bills, and we did get that, so to speak, stay for now. Is there good news that the province actually recognized how important this was? Not at all, right?
That's an
I would like to say yes, but I think it was just no, I haven't seen evidence of it yet.
There's been changes on permits.
Yes.
There's been a move from developers to use these easers, which are you just register that I'm taking water, and you're able to take like 400,000 cubic meters per day. And if you go on the registry, pick any of them, they always peg it at 399,999. So it's not, it doesn't seem to be serious. No one's really taking a real focus at what they're doing, but anyway, I mean, that's just sort of what we're
Yeah.
hearing. Like, thing is with our partnerships, we have twice a year, we have meetings and roundtables, and we start to hear what's happening in everyone's regions and start to see the patterns that are going on. And it's been a very, like, our group has been a great source of this collaboration from our partners to, keep us apprised of what is going on. And so there's these little things that keep creeping up, but yeah, we would have to say probably not.
Yeah, I can't say yes. I'd like to, but
Okay, I live in Pontypool, which is the Oak Ridge Marine,
Yeah.
right? And so we have that piece of directory that goes through there. So every time I have a planning application that comes across my table, I have to look through two different lenses. And even City of Kawartha Lakes, when we worked on a rural zoning bylaw, we didn't touch the Oak Ridge Marine, right? So
right, yeah.
I mean, there is maybe some background stuff, as a municipality, to help support some of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys have connections to provincial, higher ups, and I mean, even getting to be aware of what we're doing is tough, right? I mean, yeah, I mean, we're just science nerds, right? We go back and do our geology stuff, but I mean, we don't come out often to share what we've done, and we certainly welcome the opportunity, and thanks for listening. But yeah, anything that you can do to echo our message that here's how you manage water. Globally, what we're doing is leading edge. I mean, I would argue that you can't find anything that resembles what we put together.
My husband always says the next war will be over water.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's coming.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, just a quick one back to the technical part of it again is the aquifer, that large one in the central US, like I
Right.
read something a number of years ago that the way they're pumping water out of it now, that it cannot recharge itself fast enough. Will it actually go dry? And if it was left totally alone, they quit pumping, how long would it take to recharge it? That's
Hundreds of thousands of years.
that, right? That's what they were saying,
Yeah.
that it would. be-
Yeah, but there's parts of Kansas right now and Wyoming that are going back to what they're calling dry land farming, meaning no irrigation. So they're reliant on what comes out of the sky because it's dry down there, and that area is expanding. Yeah, it's those New York Times articles are all on our website. Because they're fascinating reads if you're into this water stuff. I mean, I could make them available. They're
That would be helpful.
sure. I would. Yeah, absolutely. There's
Thank you.
12 of them. I'll send them to Mark.
In comparison, the one in Newmark, once they stopped drawing on the aquifer in Newmark, it popped right back.
Exactly, because and that exactly, great observation, right? So we weren't really unsustainably mining the water, right? So we have enough, again, our climate is wet enough that we're in good shape around here.
It's a testament to the conservation planning that's gone around the Oak Ridges Moraine that is, the recharge source of that area
Yeah.
too, right? So.
Here's the good news part of the story.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. It was recognized. Yeah,
We were trying to bring good
the
news.
green belt. Yeah, I mean, our program is huge, man.
We were the good side. We were the good news.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And, I
Yeah,
forward,
okay,
you could forward those on.
for sure. I'll 100% I will.
Great.
Any
Absolutely.
further questions, please don't hesitate.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks so much.
Okay, can I have a motion to receive that presentation? Jerry and Kriya, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay. So we're at 6.2, low impact development rain garden demonstration project. Danielle.
Hey, folks, just wait for our presentation. Perfect, thanks, Mel. So my name is Danielle Marcoux Hunter. I've met almost everyone in the room. I'm the landowner and community specialist here at Kawartha Conservation. I'm part of the Stewardship and Conservation Lands team. And today I'm excited to be presenting to you about a project that was recently completed right here at Ken Reid Conservation Area about low impact development. This is a particularly exciting project for us because we've been dreaming it up for a number of years, and we were finally able to complete it with some great grant funding, which I will get to. So just a refresher about low impact development, or as I will refer to it today, LID. LID is a stormwater management strategy that emphasizes the conservation and use of on-site natural features that mimic pre-development hydrological functions. I like to refer to this as mini stormwater treatment facilities that accompany the conventional larger stormwater management system. So why do we need LIDs? Simply, our hydrological cycles are changing because of increasing urbanization, and we're needing to give water a place to go. So I guess conversely to the past presentation, we're talking about having too much water here at Ken Reid. So when we pave over natural infrastructure with impermeable surfaces like roofs and roads, we do have an increasing volume and flow rate of stormwater runoff. Conventional stormwater management systems are the most affected asset in most municipalities, but they're the least likely to receive an update on an annual basis. They are often accompanied by end-of-pipe treatments like stormwater management ponds. Okay. But stormwater management ponds, although they can retain excess runoff and slow the flow of runoff, they don't do anything to reduce the increasing volume of runoff being created by our urban surfaces. So the idea of LIDs is being able to treat runoff right at the source when it hits the ground before it reaches our water systems. At Ken Reid Conservation Area, we have a unique situation because we do have a lot of runoff, but we are in a rural environment, so we're actually not connected to storm sewers or our conventional stormwater management system. However, LIDs are still applicable because we have a runoff problem and we are looking to solve it. As managers of public lands, we assume some level of risk as well every time someone enters our parks, every time we host an event, and every time it rains, as our parks can be prone to flooding and freezing. LIDs give our property a better chance of remaining open, safe, and able to continue operations during extreme weather events. So particularly at the field center, which is the building just across from the parking lot, we've had a stormwater management problem for a number of years. We have flooding around and inside of the building that's actually impacted our walls and baseboards. Part of the reason for this is the elevation surrounding the building is simply not conducive to stormwater management. 3 sides of the building are actually higher in elevation than the building itself. So no matter how long the downspouts are that we install, water ultimately does flow back to the building foundation. Last year, in an emergency effort, we installed a number of rain barrels at the downspouts. However, they are not used enough on the off seasons, and they often overflow, just causing more ponding around the building foundation. Here you can see the pathway to the door and the driveway is super inundated with water. It's not infiltrating into the ground, and it can often freeze. Part of the reason for this is geological. So there is a lot of clay in most or many of the soils around the field center. As we know, clay prevents water from infiltrating down, which is why it's so useful when we're capping landfills or creating wetlands. But in this case, not so much. And the bedrock here is only about 2 feet deep. So once the ground does become saturated, water has nowhere to go. Luckily, we have secured great funding from RBC Tech for Nature to install a series of LID features around the field center. This project is nearly complete. In 2025, we will also be installing an educational sign, which will further promote the project, but it's also important because so many features of LIDs are actually underground and you can't see them just from visiting. So this project will serve as a public demonstration site of lot level LID practices that we hope will inspire LID uptake on private land across the watershed. We're also hoping that this project supports us in building our LID project components for urban stewardship and our landowner grant program. So here's an overview of the field center, just looking down. Thank you, John Chambers, for a beautiful drone shot. We did install multiple LID components all the way around that will treat and store runoff. And basically, I'm just going to show you a bunch of photos of what we did and diagrams to help articulate the work, because so much of it, again, was underground. So it was good to get photos during the process. To begin, on the north side of the building, there was a large regrading that was done of this entire surface so that we could ensure water flows east from the parking lot all the way to the back of the building and not toward. We also excavated a 40-foot by 3-foot soak-away pit, which is a subsurface reservoir that will promote below-ground storage and infiltration of runoff. And this runs almost the entire length of the field center. I have a cross-section here to better describe what a soak-away pit is. So it's 2 feet deep going down to the bedrock. There's a layer of clear stone at the bottom, a big O perforated pipe or French drain system in the middle, and a layer of amended soil on top. The clear stone is used as the subsurface layer because it has really jagged, about 2-inch diameter stones that have a 40% void space to fill or hold water. It's wrapped in a layer of geotextile filter fabric to prevent soils from getting in. So this layer really is just dedicated to holding water, and it can hold about 1,150 liters of water. The French drain system is a 40-foot perforated big O pipe, again wrapped in geotextile filter fabric, that will capture runoff and send it to the lower elevation area at the back of the building. And the amended soil, it just has reduced clay content to again promote the infiltration of water through the soil and prevent ponding on top. At the center downspout here, we've also installed a catch basin, which is a fast and easy way to get runoff out of the downspout and into the soak-away pit prior to cooling at the building foundation. And a river rock border was installed that will tackle the energy of heavy rainflow, reducing erosion and dissipating runoff at the base of the building. Out front, we installed a permeable, that's not right, walkway, not walkway, that will improve the flow of water away from the walkway and away from the building foundation. What looked like an interesting overgrown gravel walkway actually surprised us to find that there was a super compacted, hidden, and beautiful interlocking stone path that could have been the source for the surface pooling. So we had to unfortunately remove it. We replaced this feature with a permeable pathway, again, a lower level of clear stone here, covered by finer gravel for walking. It's also lined with larger field stones to prevent the path from washing away. And on either side, we've installed a native plant bed. So this image might be familiar to many of you, but just to talk about plant roots for a second. What was traditionally turf grass on either side of this pathway has been replaced by native perennials and grasses. Mowed lawn can have roots about 1 to 2 inches deep that doesn't do much when helping large amounts of water to infiltrate into the soil, whereas native plants and grasses can have roots up to 5 meters deep. Here is an image from the Secret Life of Plants exhibit in the States, showing just the average native wildflower or grass has roots taller than the average human. So we want to plant a lot of these thirsty native vegetation to drink up water. The roots also provide a pathway for water to flow underground easier, and the root systems are so dense, they actually form a web to hold soil together and reduce erosion. At the base of the walkway, we installed a 120-inch strip drain that will convey water that's overflowing from the rain barrel and garden and pathway out into the front lawn, where the 2 largest LID features are installed, which I'm getting to now. So the first of which is a 50-foot long dry swale. Swales, if you know swales, it's a gentle overland ditch that conveys water overland. A dry swale is a bit enhanced as it has filter media underground and an under drain. So in this dry swale, again, we have the geotextile filter fabric, clear stone, a 50-foot long big O pipe, and amended soil. This area has been entirely regraded as well, with about an ideal 2% slope from the parking lot down to the rain garden feature, which is our largest and last feature we'll be talking about today. So the rain garden is about 4 by 5 meters big. It's 2 feet deep as well, and it's formed in the shape of a bowl. So the reason why, the bowl shape helps capture overland flow, and the layers underground help capture infiltrated water, but also water running through that under drain from the dry swale and strip drain from the permeable pathway. Here's another cross section just to help articulate this. So there's another clear stone layer wrapped in geotextile filter fabric. This chamber will hold up to 1,800 liters of water. The bioretention media is a sand-rich soil placed on top that promotes infiltration, and it's also really good for plant growth. Finally, a layer of hardwood mulch on top to help hold soil together and keep moisture in, and a number of native plants were used. Here is the garden being planted up. Let's try and turn my page. A number of native plants were used, but things like irises were placed in the lower elevation part of the garden in the center because that area will be staying wet for 48 to 72 hours. It's designed to be that way. So we want to have plants that are really tolerant of having wet legs. There's the completed garden. So the garden was planted at the end of October. This full project was completed by early November. So we are actually eagerly anticipating to see what the garden will look like next spring when everything grows up and we hit peak blooms. There are so many ecosystem services that LIDs provide, but I'd like to give a quick summary of a few that stand out today. At the field center, we're reducing the rate, volume, and temperature of runoff. We're reducing erosion, and we're preventing damage to infrastructure and personal injury. At the same time, we're improving infiltration and groundwater recharge. By removing sediments and pollutants from our runoff, we're actually increasing the quality of the water that's entering our groundwater systems. We're improving access to our facilities, improving habitat and native biodiversity, and air quality. I was hoping it would be a really sunny day and you'd like to look around after the meeting today, but I hope you get a chance at some point to take a walk around and see the features. Thank you for listening, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Janelle. Are there any questions? Yeah, Priya?
Thanks so much for the presentation. Maybe not so much a question, but I mean, it would be great to see that whole subdivision that you showed earlier, having all of these features throughout. And I guess that's the goal with development. And are you, does the Kawartha Lakes Conservation Authority work with, to get consultation on sort of the large subdivisions and how they might install all of these LED systems?
For sure.
Are there some good examples in Lindsay?
We would like there to be. Our developers interact with a number of the departments here, so I can't speak for everyone, but I am in touch with a certain developer who is interested in bringing LIDs to a development they're working on. And so we've been partnering with them actually for almost the past 3 years in designing model homes that contain rain garden features. The rain garden features are going to be advertised as an add-on for a price that people may or may not opt to choose when they're purchasing their property. I know across the GTA, this is really common to have LIDs included in the stormwater management plans for developments. We would like to get to that level. I'm sure some of the developments happening in Lindsay do have features as part of their stormwater management plans, but it is beside the scope of what I work on.
I see that people behind you nodding as well, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on that too. Thank
It's
you.
exciting.
Yes, very
Yes.
exciting.
The provincial policy statement, though, says that some low impact development has to be done, but you're talking about enhanced, right?
It could be either way. In my relationship with the developer we're working with, the rain garden cannot be included in the stormwater management plan
Okay.
because the homeowners may actually mow it down or remove it, and it could easily be displaced and it's not reliable.
Right.
But in some places, in some different municipalities, it still is included as a relevant feature that could be included. And there are other scale LIDs that are definitely able to be included.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jerry?
Through the chair, so old technology, a lot of houses used to have cisterns.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have this high density population for whatever for foreseeable future. Is there any interest or indication that that could come back into play. It doesn't necessarily have to be indoors anymore. Because in the old days, we didn't have plastic tanks and whatever we could bury. But there's all kinds of ways to collect rainwater that other than a 45-gallon drum at the edge of a house. And even the capacity of what you have out here, 5 or 6 plastic totes will carry the same liter volume, right? So I'm just wondering, is there any momentum towards that concept of a cistern? If we're gonna go to this high density, because used to do washing and toilets with cistern water rather
Yeah.
than needing to draw water out of the ground, which is gonna get back there somehow anyways.
Yeah.
Just wondering we're thinking about it that way.
If I could provide an opinion, I'd say definitely it's the interest in that kind of system is on the rise. And actually, there's still a few landowners in our area that do use that system still for non-priority water use. Yeah, personally, I think it could definitely be on the rise. I went to a meeting for Durham Region yesterday where that was a hot topic, and they were talking more about the size of rain barrels not being sufficient. But if folks installed like a 1,000-liter cistern on new homes, or even retrofitting older homes with that system, it's a conversation that's happening.
Well, it's a plus because now you're drawing less water out of the actual system that you installed for indoor plumbing.
For sure.
Okay, Tracy?
Thank you, through you, maybe just a comment. Being in the business that we're in, we're seeing a lot more residential and a lot more farmers that are looking to do this type of capture of the natural rainwater and create these gardens now, or, put them into a pond. So we're seeing a lot more engagement probably in the last 2 years who asked about that. So I definitely think people are taking note and trying to think how can we do better?
Yeah.
Good. Any other questions of Danielle? Well, thank you for that. That was interesting to see that happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to receive Danielle's presentation? Jerry and Tracy, hello. Tired. All in favor? Carried. Okay. So we're on to 7.1, permits issued by designated staff. Matt?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. As done on page 13 of the agenda, we are reporting on the month of October. And by reading the report, you may notice that statistics are decreasing slightly from the previous reporting period. We are continuing to have that role vacant, but are making great effort to get the permits out the door. And we anticipate to have this role filled by early next year. Or, excuse me. During the October, we issued 21 permits, having 71% of them deemed complete within the timelines and 81% issued within timelines. With respect to provincial guidelines, we issued 86% of them within the deeming complete portion of the timeline, and we met all of the timelines related to issuance. We're seeking resolution that permitting performance report be received, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. And I believe a lot of staff are pitching in to help move this forward. So thank you to everybody. Any questions of Matt? Okay, so can I have a motion to receive? Kriya and Peter? No questions? All in favor? Very good. Okay. So we're on to 7.2. Wanda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a little more familiar now with books than it was the first time, but they provided you the September 30th financial statement. We appear to be on budget, on targets. I noticed in the financial statement that there's salaries that are under budget and some that are over budget. And that's just a reallocation of where our efforts went to, such as the provincial legislation and mapping and that type of thing. So that will all even out. We've got 3 more months of salaries in there. We've also had a number of vacancies that have lowered salaries somewhat. We're currently in the process of filling 2 vacancies in the planning department. So overall, I'm not seeing any issues. I think the revenue's at about 73% of our targets, and the expenditures are about 69% of our target overall. So if there's any further questions, I'd be happy to answer those. Or not.
No.
We'll just send it down the line.
Yeah, we'll just save a little bit of money from gapping, right?
Apparently.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions of Wanda? Okay, so can I have a motion to receive the interim financial statements, please? Tracy and Jerry, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Goodness, guys. Okay, 7.3 CAO report. Mark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My pleasure to talk about some things going on with our organization over the last little while. I'll touch on a couple of components, and of course, there's a lot in there, so I'm not going to touch on everything. But there's been a lot of focus that we've put into where you see the products and the action items over this last little bit. One of those was the budget itself and attaching the text to the numbers that you saw at the last meeting. We have reworked our budget format. So it looks cleaner. I think it's more visually appealing. And I think more clearly identifies the different successes that we've had over this year and what we're trying to achieve in the new year. We also, in a general sense, this is really mostly John Chambers, but a massive undertaking to change the website over from the old version to the new version. And that was all the programming in the back. That went fairly smoothly, but there were a few workflow issues as well that we had to work out. And again, kudos to John for his diligence on sorting those out. I think they're pretty much all sorted out now. But did persist for a little while. And of course, one of the most important ones that we have, which is receiving payments. So that's been resolved, which is good. But as a result, everyone else picks up the slack on those and creates a little bit more work and in the meantime. But great work in getting that resolved, I think, fairly quickly and expediently. So. In permits and planning, as Matt just identified, we are slipping a little bit on what we prefer to see our calc standards at, but we're working to get it back to a spot where we're much more comfortable and want it to be, because of course we're dealing with people's projects and their dreams, and we want to make sure that that we get permits out to them as quick as we can. In terms of floodplain, we did submit a project to the federal provincial government for Burnt River, and if we are successful in that, we'll be able to proceed with that project in the new year. And I know we're working with Trent Lakes as well for another floodplain study that's on Nogies Creek, a little further up. So Bass Lake and that territory. So pretty exciting. That'll be in the spring. That one wasn't covered off in my CRO report, but you know about now. In terms of events, we had a couple of events that have occurred or are occurring as we go forward. There's the Neon Nights. It was a pilot event, and it was really well done. So that was October 29th, from all the participants that were there. Everyone really enjoyed it. I heard from the event that they were surprised it went so quick and they wanted to do more. So just a testament of, you know, it was really well received and something that we can build on as we go forward. We have our really big event, Christmas at Ken Reed, coming up on December 7th. So that's not this weekend, but next weekend, and I'm sure it'll be a great success. Lots of interest always in Christmas at Ken Reed, and I know our staff do a great job preparing for it, and then on the day being able to celebrate everyone's families in a setting that is still in nature, but introduces them a little bit more to things that they enjoy in the conservation areas. We also have the illuminated forest that's going to start on the same day, December 7th, and run through to the end of December. And we're moving that instead of at the Lakeview area, it's going to be right across the road here. So it'll be a much more, I'll call it accessible trail, less issues, I think, with running down the hill in icy conditions, which has proven to be a little bit challenging in previous years. So this will be a lot better, I think, for that. I did want to give a little bit of a highlight for a gentleman that works for us, recent to our organization on a contract, and that's Matthew Wilson. He helps out Nancy's team. He was a candidate for the Premier's Award in the Science, Technology, and Engineering category, and that recognizes outstanding college students. So we're very lucky to have one of the best and brightest in Ontario. The watershed conditions, there's some information that was presented there as well as some of our efforts to advance decision-making based on science. And as the presentation by Steve and Mason, that's another example of data-driven decision-making. So that's a direction that we're excited to pursue. And you can see in there that based on the precipitation amounts that we're awfully close to level 1, but we know we're getting some rain as well. So that's taken a little bit of the edge off, but is drier than usual. And I think I'll end it there, Madam Chair. Happy to address any questions.
Yeah, I was just wondering what's usually the time from the government to do the, to get funding for flood initiative.
For that, I'll turn it over to Matt. He probably has a better sense of it. He's been dealing with it directly.
To qualify, you have, there's several scenarios that are involved, so it is a little complex, but generally any municipality can apply for it. It's up to 50% of funding coverage of qualified activities. So generally it's like we assess internally what we think our project will cost, and then we submit it to staff generally. And then they'll say, yeah, we have room in the budget, or we can try to put it in the budget for a future year. We do talk to the staff as well to figure out what bodies they prefer as well. If they're saying, oh, well, we want Balsam Lake, and staff says, oh no, we really want this area because we have projects coming in, we'll do that as well. So yeah, it's 100% coverage. I think there is a maximum number. I can't remember what it is offhand, but
I was just wondering the usual time that you have to wait to hear. You don't know. Okay, that's cool. That's all right.
We were told up to expected 6 to 9 weeks, and we're over that already.
Yeah.
But that was like not written. That was just we were talking.
It's fine. I just, okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, can I have a motion to receive Mark's report, please? Jerry, Kriya, all in favor? Carried. Okay. And okay, so we have 7.4 correspondence received. Do you want to?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. 2 items of correspondence for your interest. One is Conservation on Ontario Council meeting minutes from June 24th. I did provide an update on the results of that meeting earlier, and that was done in July, but the minutes have been posted, so they're presented for your interest. And then we did get some correspondence from the Region of Durham regarding the Bill 23, and that dealt with municipal, the upper tier responsibilities and Planning Act. So that was a report that was provided by the Durham region to its partners in order to clarify some of the aspects that they were dealing with on their end related to a potential change. And I believe my understanding is that it has been announced that there'll be that they will no longer be providing those functions. So since this letter was provided.
Oh,
so that's what I heard through the grapevine. I'm not sure if any announcements have been made, but primarily affects the northern municipalities of the region of Durham, so Scugog, Brock, and Uxbridge. This is the upper tier planning responsibilities. They will. This was a report that was outlined by Durham Region, outlining some of the potential impacts on region and what will happen. So my understanding is that that will be occurring. So the province has made a decision to remove those responsibilities.
Down low.
Yes, absolutely.
Planning is going to you.
Yeah.
Durham from.
Great, well, we're gonna need some support.
Hire somebody else.
There you go. Okay. Any questions? Can I have a motion to receive the correspondence, please? Peter, Kriya, all in favor? Okay. All right, so we're on to 8.1 Lake Dalrymple Watershed Characterization and Management Plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So today I'm going to introduce Brett Trigato. He's going to come and speak to the Lake County Management Plan.
Hey, Brett.
Thanks, Nancy. Nice to see everybody again.
Yes.
So just a brief, no presentation, just a brief backgrounder on the board report. So yeah, up for your consideration is endorsement of the characterization report and Lake Dalrymple Management Plan. Just a reminder, so the Lake Dalrymple, or the lake, is outside of our kind of traditional area of jurisdiction. So this is a special project for the city of Kawartha Lakes. And Lake Dalrymple is just in the northwest corner of that map there. But it's shared with Ramera Township. So this was a 4-year special project for us. And we are pretty proud of our products presented to you. So one of which is a detailed technical report. That's the Lake Watershed Characterization Report. So this more of a sciencey flavor, I guess, to it. So this details anything you want to know about Lake Dalrymple water resources, land use, fisheries, the state of the lake, basically. In general, we've characterized the lake as kind of good to fair in terms of water quality, watershed health, and that type of thing. But the lake still has, some challenges, which are there. So the plan is kind of, we've taken our technical data and results and key findings. We've combined it with our public engagement exercises, which included a number of open houses at the Carden Rec Center. Most importantly, though, was we had a really dedicated working group of about 10 to 15 kind of local lake associations, individuals that are really going to champion this plan moving forward, and really helped us, navigate what are the key issues, what are the key management objectives, and helped refine the plan to kind of meet the needs of the local community. After all, this plan, because it's outside of our jurisdiction, our role is a supporting role, largely through the City of Kawartha Lakes Implementation Action Plan, through things like the water fund and native plant sales and that type of thing. So we're kind of on the sidelines in terms of implementation on this, and luckily we do have a community that's willing to champion it. I'll leave it there, Madam Chair.
I have a couple questions, so in all our lake management plans, or most of them, it talks to shoreline naturalization and tree bylaws. So I didn't see anything about, looking at a tree bylaw in this one. But it said basically loss of shade, the need for shoreline naturalization, and that the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks advises that the Lake Dalrymple may have already exceeded its capacity, which was a kind of interesting statement I saw. But I'm just trying to get tree bylaws going, so anything I can do to do that. I also noticed that there was it seemed like a lot more science in this one than the previous ones. So, yeah, it was interesting to read, and thank you for that. Because they're not in the watershed, the lake's not in the watershed, do we have to have an MOU to actually fund some of the initiatives in this plan?
So, great question. We figure that through our existing special project, the City of Kawartha Lakes Implementation Action Plan, it's intended to cover all of City of Kawartha Lakes.
Okay.
And so definitely the western portion, the Ramera side, which is about a quarter or so of the watershed, and the shoreline. Most of our programs would be out of scope without some special arrangement, but the rest of the watershed and the shoreline and helping the local community we see it largely through the implementation action plan.
And Madam Chair, that Lake Management Plan implementation is part of the existing MOUs.
Okay,
So it is
Okay.
included.
good. All right. So, yeah, Jerry?
Question, please, through the chair. I'm just trying to find it here again. I thought it was later on in your report, you're talking about phosphorus and the amount of and whatever. And you're talking about this thermal stratification, and if I read it right, does the actual changing of the water from cold to warm, low to high, does it just release phosphorus? Or does it generate phosphorus, or did I misread that whole concept?
No, you didn't. Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Typically, what happens is when you have low oxygen, say near the sediment, so near the bottom of the lake, it's just there's a chemical reaction that it's called redox potential, and what it does is it pulls phosphorus from the sediments back into the lake. So phosphorus that might have been there through gravity over time, and it's just kind of settled out to the bottom. Once you have those anoxic or low oxygen conditions, it leaches back out into the water column.
That's kind of where I thought you were going with. Then I'm trying to figure out how you ascertain what amount of phosphorus comes from different inputs, and without being like, I don't know how you'd even measure the amount that might be in the sediment in a given area. And I'm guaranteed that different portions of the lake are gonna have, every lake I've ever been into, you get sandy, you get muddy, you get all kinds of different types of sediment. So I just wonder how you ascertain 2% of this is from that input or the others.
Yeah, thank you, and then through you, Madam Chair. So the internal loading component of that, kind of what's going on in the lake and how that's mixing it's very complicated. And that was kind of outside of the scope of this. What we focused on was the loading into the lake. And certain sources, we could get a pretty good handle on that, for example, through measuring the outlets of all the major streams. So we can measure the outlets, and we know the flow conditions. And so we can times, the concentration of, say, phosphorus by the amount of flow that passes through there, say in a year, and you get a kilogram, a weight of loading of inputs from phosphorus. So that's something we can directly measure. Others, it's more of we call it a coefficient, so an estimation. So for example, we use guidance from the province. They have a lake capacity handbook. And they say, okay, well, the average, if you're within 300 meters of the lake, in terms of shoreline septic system inputs, we expect water use to be this amount of liters, per day, based if you're seasonal or all these different categories, permanent or, that type of thing. We expect, the average, kilogram of poop to contain this much phosphorus. So it's more of an estimate that way. And so our loading pie chart is kind of a combination of these coefficients, what's our best estimates based on science, and what we've actually measured.
So if what I learned earlier today about the groundwater implementing into the surface water, so the type of mineral anywhere in the vicinity could have trace amounts of something, if that's actual, which I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around the idea of something lower migrating to surface water, but would that not be a cost to at some point?
Through Madam Chair, absolutely. Yeah, the ministry, the guidance we have is 100% of septic system leachate goes back into the lake, especially up there when you have fractured bedrock, a lot of karst. You have rapid movement of water downhill back into the lake.
Yes, so that's from a higher elevation, not from a low groundwater source.
Okay, Priya.
Thank you. Thank you, and through you. It's really great to see the list of recommendations in here, and considering that most of the, I guess, the water quality and the habitat is mostly fair, it looks like the Kawartha Lakes Conservation Authority has a fairly good role in public education, right? In this, so is it how long will it be before we see this turnaround and everything is in excellent condition? What's your best guess on that?
Great question through you, Madam Chair. In Lake Dalrymple, just
Yeah.
to clarify,
Or late management.
tough to say. Tough to say. One of the reasons why is because this is really the first comprehensive study done on Lake Dalrymple. So we don't have the benefit of historical record to see, to track land use change and how that's impacted water quality and that type of thing. And so it's relatively uncertain. And like I said at the open house, the destiny of Lake Dalrymple is ultimately in the hands of the people who live there. We're here to support any way we can. For example, in the public education role, one of the ways that we can support the local community is, say, for example, they wanted to bring in an expert to talk about groundwater or proper septic system maintenance or something like that. Sometimes there's a cost involved, right? For the contractor, installer, professional. And so, our programs could help fund that, help facilitate bringing them to the community, to disseminate that information and that type of thing.
So it looks like there are a couple of really good lake community groups. And do you work closely with them? And I guess they could always have changing members or the changing population, but you're saying that's their best hope.
Yeah, actually, great question through you, Madam Chair. One of our recommendations in the plan was to actually form an umbrella group. There's a number of, and this is not unusual around these lakes, is everybody has their own road, their own private road, their own private association, and they're only concerned about maybe plowing snow and road maintenance and culverts and maybe the occasional fishing derby, like that type of thing. And so our recommendation, high priority recommendation, is to form an umbrella group, plug into the assistance and the expertise of somebody like the Federation of Ontario Cottagers Association, and really champion, this plan from that point of view. Because if you have this kind of piecemeal approach, it's going to take a lot longer to get to that excellent conditions than might otherwise.
Good idea. Thanks.
Any other questions of Brett? Gary?
Through the chair, so the idea of invasive species, have we got any real way of controlling what's going on? And I know people have tried different things over the years. That's how we ended up with earwigs, and they got the new beetles, and everybody's trying to squash this purple blue stripe for the dog vine, striped dog vine stuff. Is there anything that's actually showing that we're making an inroad to reversing those invasive species?
Great question. Yeah, through Madam Chair. That's a tough one, to be honest, not that I know of. Once they are established, especially in a lake environment, if you think about a terrestrial environment, you could go for a walk and, oh, there it is. Okay, well, let's remove it. In a lake, you don't see it. You don't know what's there, and you just don't have access, right? And so it's very challenging in the aquatic environment. I will say that the federal level, honestly, is one of the best gates for that, because a lot of our, think of zebra mussels and a bunch of other invasive species, they come from, in the past, from ballast water, from cargo like freighters and that type of thing, crossing the Atlantic. So the federal government's really stepped up their game. Some of you might have heard of the Chicago Sanitary Canal. Basically, they're trying to keep Asian carp, these really aggressive species of Asian carp, from our lakes in Ontario and that type of thing. So they have been making waves at the federal level. Locally, much more challenging. And just another quick thought on that. There's some groups out there that are picking out these banded mystery snails. So you might have seen these snails wash up on your lake. They almost look like a garden snail, so they've got a swirl around them.
Yeah.
And they're everywhere, and they die off in large numbers and stink. Well, there's a group out there that is hand picking them with volunteers, and they've removed literally hundreds of thousands of these things, and it still hasn't helped.
Fair enough.
Brett, we've pretty much done all the lakes now. We've kind of looked at Scugog. Are there any plans to, now that we've got the data from years ago, to maybe go look at the other different lake management plans, Pigeon, whatever, going forward to see, have there been any changes since those plans have been done?
Yes, I would say, if I have it right, in the proposed budget for next year, we do have a project. I can't remember the exact title of it now, Lake Health Monitoring Program, or something like that. And we had those very same questions. Are we making a difference? Is it changing? Are the lakes getting worse, getting better? We do a very good job of kind of site-specific evaluations. Okay, once we improve this site through, different services, we can kind of measure a difference. But what about lake-wide conditions? And so we are proposing a project to answer that exact question.
Thank you. That's great. Okay, any other questions? Can I have a motion to actually endorse the Lake Dalrymple Management Plan? Tracy, Priya, all in favor? Carried. Thanks a lot, Brett. And
Not going anywhere yet.
Sam too.
Good.
Okay.
Got a dam coming?
So the next item, Brett's here for the next.
Oh, okay.
Well, so
All right.
I just wanted to throw out, in addition to the Lake Dalrymple Management Plan characterization report that Brett has been pivotal at doing for the last 4 years, he's also undertaken leading the watershed-based resource strategy for us this year. And he's done an amazing job putting this document together in, I would say, a very short time.
Yeah.
Literally started in January. And so I just want to give him the accolades to job well done.
Yay, Brett.
But he's like to talk to it today.
He's great, I know. Okay, so 8.2, watershed-based resource management strategy. You're on again.
Okay, thank you again. This isn't the first time that we've kind of presented this project to you, so we have come a number of times throughout the year, kind of just giving you updates on the status. But we are pleased to kind of present our draft watershed-based resource management strategy. And so this is a legislative requirement from the province, and but it's also very useful to us. We look at it as kind of a one-stop shop of what we do, why we do it, what are some of the issues or risks, of the way we currently operate. How can we be doing things better? It also provides kind of a snapshot in time in terms of what are the current challenges, trends, and information needs, not only of staff, but of kind of our community of key stakeholders as well. So there are 7 kind of key program areas that were evaluated in which management actions are presented. So natural hazard management, drinking source water protection, provincial water quality and quantity monitoring, local environmental monitoring, watershed studies and strategies, conservation authority lands and conservation areas, and enabling program services. The second to last one, the conservation authority lands and conservation areas, that piece is kind of covered in actually an agenda item coming up in a couple items, the conservation land strategy, which is another provincial requirement. But we do have 19 action items that we feel will make our watershed management profile better, more accessible to the community, more relevant to stakeholders and that type of thing. Most of these can be implemented through our existing, budget, just tweaks to the way we offer programming, tweaks to how we communicate and cooperate and coordinate with partner agencies. But for others, there is a cost involved. not that you're committing to that today, but we're gonna, in the future, our plan is to kind of leverage partnership opportunities and funding programs and support to make that happen. So we did have a working group to help us throughout this process to bounce ideas off, and especially to come up with those, what are those issues and key challenges and that type of thing. One of our key partners that we're continuing to work with is Mississauga Squaw Island First Nation. They have a different timeline than we do. We're under pressure, legislative pressure, to get this done this year. And we continue to engage with them. We feel it's beneficial. It's kind of a long-term game, our partnership with them. We didn't want to pressure them into providing comments on specific timelines, just because there are timelines. But we are committed to kind of working with them on implementation of this strategy. I will leave it there.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Brett. Okay, are there any questions of Brett? There's lots of plans today.
All good.
Yeah, okay. No questions, so where are we here? Okay, can I have a motion to receive that plan? I guess endorse it too, yeah. Jerry? Well, it doesn't say endorse, but I guess it's just receive, but. Okay, that watershed-based resource management strategy be placed on our website and distribute to member municipalities. There we go. Okay, we have a motion. Okay, Tracy, Jerry, all in favor? Okay. All right. So we're on to 8.3. Christy Virgo. Okay, conservation area strategy, draft strategy.
So many strategies.
Yes, not plan so much, strategies, yes.
Exactly. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm back again. You'll recall last month I was here with our draft strategy. We circulated it out to the community for public input. We did not receive any input from the community. We did make a couple of minor adjustments to some mapping as a recommendation from our own internal review. But the content of the report you'll see remains largely the same as what it was the last time that you saw it. And I think that the reason we didn't see a whole lot of community input this second round is because of the fact that we did so much community consultation before drafting it in the first place. So, yeah, so I'm happy to announce that, we're ready for a final approval, to have it approved and put onto our website. As similar to what Brett just presented, this strategy is part of legislative requirement. But again, it is also very useful to us as a team and as an organization. It's always, we always look at our conservation areas and think, this is the way we want things to move forward. And it's typically, we have these values that we own within the Conservation Authority. And this was a really useful process to ensure that our priorities and our values aligned with the values and the priorities of our community. And so I think if anything, that was the biggest benefit for this, as well as the fact that it gives us the opportunity to reaffirm those. Regardless of staff changes, regardless of, where we may go every 5 years or so, we get to sit down and look at this again, make sure that we're still on track, make sure that we're still aligned with that community. So I'm really excited by this initiative, as much as it was a legislative requirement. I think that it has a lot of value to us as an organization to provide quality green space and quality access to nature for folks in our community.
Absolutely. Okay, do we have any questions, Jerry?
Through the chair, so did you see any big conflicts of interest between that body and yourselves as far as moving forward? Were there anything that highlights more of an emphasis from the community side that?
Not really. I think, as I mentioned, I think back in maybe September, October, I think the biggest thing that I was
surprised at is the amount of community support for the value that the community has in access to green space for mental and physical well-being and the impact that that has on our community. I mean, I think I always felt it personally that this was a great opportunity, but to see that mirrored back to me from the folks that input to us to say, yeah, this is a really, really high priority for us. The other side of it was the value that they see from the scientific side of things. So making sure that we're utilizing our conservation areas as opportunities to further investigate our watershed and to develop a better, stronger understanding of what's happening on the land.
Yeah, Tracy?
Thank you, through you. Comment, it's a great report, and like you said, it really exposes what we do when it looks at our conservation areas. Do you feel that post-pandemic, because we learned a lot through the pandemic when it came to the use of our conservation outlets, how much it actually impacted probably this report for you, just seeing those trends?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Madam Chair. That's a really good point. And I think that, that trend towards community well-being and personal well-being is definitely a trend that we're seeing as a result of the pandemic. The people attending our conservation areas through the pandemic increased significantly. And while we have seen a bit of a drop off once the movie theaters and everything else opened up and people had options again, a lot of people have sort of integrated this into their regular day-to-day life. I think one of the things that we've noticed as well in some of the conversations we've had with folks is that mental health in general has become more of a topic of conversation. People are talking about it more and recognizing their own vulnerability for feeling, emotionally or mentally unwell. As a result of the isolation and issues around the pandemic. So I think that that's one of the reasons it was heightened for sure.
Yeah, Priya?
Yes, thank you, and through you. I'm really happy to hear that the exercise, even though it was mandated, has a double purpose and is good for the corporation. Could you please remind me exactly where Tucked Away is and whether or not I'm allowed to walk on it?
So yes, through you, Madam Chair. So Tucked Away is on the border between Brock and Scugog Township. It's just outside of the Sunderland area, and it is not yet open to the public. We've run into a bit of a challenge with getting the fencing up, and I really don't want people walking on the property until it's really clear to individuals where the private property starts and the public property ends. So we will be working to that end in the first quarter, hoping to have the fencing done by the end of March so that we can do a grand opening in the spring.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I mean, I live right there, so I'm really looking
Forward to it, eh?
to walking there. And I remember when it was created or when we acquired it. So yeah, thanks for
It's
that.
coming very, very soon.
Okay, good. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, just on the pandemic, I mean, the foundation did an initiative to get people out to our areas. So that was really a good thing. So obviously it really, really helped. And also your meditations are good too, Christy. I'll have to get out to a new one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love to have you.
Yeah. Okay, so can we have a motion to let's see, I'll just read it, sorry. That the conservation area strategy be approved further to the requirement to establish such a strategy as identified in 0.reg686-21, and that the conservation areas strategy be placed on our website. Okay. Priya? Tracy? Any other comments? All in favor? Carried. Great. Thank you. Okay, so we're on to 8.4, fee schedule update. Mark?
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. We have the fee schedule update report before you. We are proposing 2 separate resolutions just to make it a little bit easier, hopefully. Otherwise it'd be many parted and be a little bit more difficult perhaps. So the first part deals with planning and permitting fee schedules. Those are schedules 1 and 2 in our fee policy. And this is tied to the minister's order to freeze payments or freeze not payments, but freeze the fees where they were a couple of years ago. We were lucky enough, I guess you can say, to make sure that our fee schedule is updated for the first year of the freeze. But now this has been 2 years where we haven't had those fees reflect the changing environment that we're in. So what we are proposing is that 2.5% for each year be applied to the fee schedule if the minister's order is lifted. So we don't have any indication. What's happened in previous years is usually on December 28th, we get a letter from the province saying it's frozen. So we didn't want to put too much effort into that. But we're looking to just get sanctioning from the board to apply that 2.5 so we can come back with a schedule and in January be able to put it out for public consultation. So that is the first resolution. The only other add-on in there is that we have noted that there's a few categories that might change around a bit. So things like the infrastructure element tied to solar and wind isn't near as prominent as it was because the bill itself has been repealed. So that would be another change that we'd see probably being taken out entirely from the fees. So that's the first resolution. The second resolution deals with the stewardship, education, and community fee schedules. And those are schedules 3 and 4. And for those, we're proposing a 30-day commenting period. The changes that are included in those two pieces are tied to a couple of things. There is a minor change regarding one of the pavilion fees, an increase of $15 from 85 to 100, and then separating it out. And that's because we have electricity to the pavilion now, which is makes it a higher demand kind of area for people to use for different events. And the second is a special event parking element, which is new as well. And there was a lot of traffic. It was backed up Angeline Street North for Christmas at Ken Reed. So staff has been busy trying to figure out a better solution for parking. So we have a lot more buses this year. So we're trying to encourage that. And also to try and encourage that is a special event parking fee to gain some revenue as well for a category 3 type program. But also as a result, encourage that the use of the shuttle service. So that is one that we are proposing be established immediately. And my apologies as well. This was caught a little later in the process than we wanted to, but staff have advertised already for the parking and some of the media releases that have gone out in the overall logistics. But if the board doesn't agree, we'll keep the same process of 100 parking lot spaces being available. But what we will do is refund those amounts to those individuals if the board feels it shouldn't be implemented immediately. So
I just was wondering, so somebody shows up, they don't hear about the bus, and you're over your 100. What do you do then with those people in a car?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things, which is the shuttle service will be existing, so we can direct them to those shuttle service locations and have them be able to take part in that.
So they turn around and go.
Turn around and
Yeah,
go there.
gotcha. Okay.
And that probably saves them walking time as well.
Yeah.
So.
Tracy and then Priya.
More of a comment too, and then when you're looking at this, I mean, growth has to pay for growth. And I mean, there's clearly some more demand on some of these events that we're running towards, and we're looking for some cost recovery. And, even when you look at the special event permit for this upcoming festival, everybody pays for parking, everybody, you know what I mean? It is the norm. And then I look, in another report where we have to look at how do we, look at fixing the driveway entrance into here. So that could be part of, when you have to expand some things like this for cost recovery, because you do have to expand what's happening here. So I have no issues with any of the on the permits personally.
Priya?
Yes, thanks. I feel like if Eric Smeaton were here, he would have a problem with that $25 for the festival. That's that $20 parking. That is that is a lot for some families, and this is a big Christmas outing for them. And some people don't take the shuttle because it's enough that they can get their family into a car and walk through the mud, but it's another to go to a place and get on a bus, and it's that extra step. So I feel this is an impediment, and it's a heavy burden for a lot of those. When I was here last year, I saw a lot of, I don't know what the right term is, but families that were struggling with all their little kids, and people were tired, and there were all sorts of difficulties, and I feel that burden is a lot. I think it's too much. I understand that for people who can take the shuttles, that's great, and they will, but I think a lot of people just won't go that step. They don't want to be on a bus with 100 other families screaming. It's just enough that they can get here themselves. So I worry about it. I don't like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my first kind of feeling when I saw that, but yeah, Tracy?
Just maybe comment back on that. How is the shuttle service working? So we have a better understanding, because I mean, we just went through this process with the International Polaring Match where we, shuttle service was there, it worked seamlessly. So maybe just to give us an update too, so we have a better understanding.
Sure, just through you, Madam Chair. So we have multiple locations that have been secured around this, Lindsay. We have one at IE Weldon, which is out on the east side of the town. We have the one at Canadian Tire, which is the one we've used every year for the last couple of years. And that also provides accessible access. So the bus itself is accessible for wheelchairs and anyone with accessibility needs. We also have Parkview, which is sort of right in central downtown, so that folks that don't have cars or don't have access to a vehicle could simply walk there to the public school. And then we have one at Fleming College as well. So the nice thing about using these schools is that they have large parking areas, so they can get lots of cars parked there. They're free parking areas, so they don't have to worry about being ticketed or towed. And then the buses are all free. The buses start running at 9:30 so that they are at our gate by around 10 o'clock in the morning, which is when the festival starts, and they continue running until the end of the festival at 4 o'clock. We've got, as I say, multiple buses running on a consistent basis to ensure that we've got a constant flow of people that come, because not everybody comes and stays for the whole day, they come for a couple of hours, so they can always jump on a bus and get back to their car in relative quick succession, so.
I think it's a terrific shuttle service, and I think it worked really well at the plowing match, especially because it was right across the road. You could see where you were going. And I think your shuttle service does work well, and it's an amazing, offer from you guys.
I was just going to ask, John, are we doing any, advertising on the radio the day before? On the shuttles and
we have no current paid advertising. All of our communication and correspondence has highlighted the paid parking component to try and make that as public as possible. There was a 5-minute, 13-second interview on the radio this morning. With Melissa talking about Christmas in Ken Reed, and again highlighting that paid parking. It's through our social media, components. If you were to go to our website on the festivals page or anything like that, we actually are running large banners highlighting that piece, informing people. We are running through our Google Ads account. We are running paid advertising referencing that parking component. That's through the ad grant. We're not spending actual dollars for that advertising. And then we have also shared it on the Court Lakes message board, Bob Cajun, Fenelon, the Port Perry message board. So we are, trying to put it out there as much as we can. We have shared that information with the Lindsay District Chamber of Commerce, who has shared it with their members as well.
Okay, thank you, Tracy and Jerry.
Last year, there was a traffic jam. And
yes.
I mean, if you're using the shuttle service, there's no charge to come to the event, correct? Those that want to pay the $20 to come will pay the $20 to come because of the convenience of it. I don't know, I feel like it might be a balance just because of the last 2 years, it just keeps growing. It is your marketing, like, you hear it out there, folks are looking for it, they put it on the calendar now that we're doing Henrietta Christmas. So
I'm on side with you. I get it. And eventually everyone will get that. That's how it always is. Yeah. I'm with you.
Great. Jerry?
Through the chair, so your shuttle system, will it be designations from point A to point B, or will they do a loop? Does a family have to remember where they park to get on the right shuttle bus to end up where their car is?
Yeah, it's a really good point. And so we will have reminders on the buses as to which parking lot they parked at. So give them sort of a code so that they know which ones to get back off at, for when they're
Will the
ready to
shuttle
leave.
bus, will
kind of
it
thing.
circle all the drop offs and they just have to remember where to get off?
That's
It's not gonna be you end up over there when you want to.
That's right, yeah.
Bus one to
You would want to
six.
get on the bus when you want to go to the-
Yeah, great.
Oh, no. Been there. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so we have the resolution one. That an annual increase of 2.5 be applied to fee schedule one planning fees and fee schedule two permitting fees to account for inflationary cost increases tied to the duration of minister orders, freezing the ability to recover fees, and that the updated fee schedule one and two be prepared with any additional adjustments as may be needed for the first board meeting of 2025, provided that the minister's order freezing fees is lifted. Okay.
Say that again.
That's why I read it. Okay, can I have a mover and a, okay, Peter and Tracy, all in favor? Carried. And then we have the resolution two, resolve that the draft fee schedule three, general fees, conservation areas, and fee schedule four, stewardship fees for 2025 be approved for a 30-day commenting and review period, and that the festival parking fee be implemented immediately to enable event planning for Christmas at Ken Reed 2024. Kriya and seconder. Okay, Jerry, all in favor, carried. Okay. We're getting there.
Be in order,
Mhm.
break be in order.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, and then we'll get into the budget. That won't be, absolutely.
You want to?
We could take a break if you wish, Jerry, or.
I just want my
That might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, I get some more.
Minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
I mean,
Yeah. We're almost finished, folks.
Take some time.
Anyway, we'll get used to it.
Already back? Okay, so we're on to the budget draft. You're on.
Yes, I'll introduce Wanda to this item.
Okay.
But I'll
Put your
provide
name
just
on
a brief overview. It's essentially the same information I received last week. But we've added text to it and the Bob Cajun Dam project to it. So those are really the two changes that you'll see is a full budget product. Complete with all the text and all the pieces that were talked about at the last meeting. It is a 2.5% increase for the operating side of things. Those are the category 1 and category 3 components. And that's very specific to what the province has told us to do. And then things that are not solely or jointly funded by municipalities through special projects. And similar to other budgets, there is a general benefiting component that advances a couple of initiatives that we've talked about at the board for the last couple of years, the environmental monitoring strategy, asset management strategy, asset management, and climate change strategy this year. So that's a really brief summary, and maybe I'll turn it over to Wanda to now mess up all her notes on what you're going to do.
Madam Chair, every word's left. We are at phase 2 of the budget. And so what you're deciding today is whether or not this draft is adequate to circulate for 30 days to the municipality. And our next step would be to approve the levy, to consider the municipal input from the circulation, and then to approve the levy and the budget itself. So that would be in January of 2025 at our annual meeting. We have that board meeting.
So we've already passed the budget in Kawartha Lakes, so that happened. I mean, so are we going to look at whether we could start our process earlier so there's more input? I don't know.
Because of all the other municipalities are.
Yeah, you haven't done yours, I guess, eh?
No.
We're just so,
All that are way behind. I mean, the
Yeah.
lower tier, lower tier is way behind.
Okay.
So you can't.
yeah, okay.
Through you, Madam Chair, there's so many difficulty and everybody has different deadlines.
Yeah.
And so we start at the higher levels of the.
Okay, that's fine.
municipalities
Yeah.
To get our guidelines.
Yeah,
And then I work from there.
got it. Okay, any questions? No questions at all on the budget. See, I told you, Wanda.
Madam Chair, may I add a little bit of information that Mark maybe didn't know.
Okay.
What we did was Nancy has secured the confirmation of the $15,000 in cash from our partner in this, and then we estimated in our document here $5,000 in kind. But Nancy's department looked at the in-kind contribution and assessed that it's more likely in the $15,000 range. So they're matching higher than what we're asking from deferred revenue.
Great. Yeah, Harold?
Yes, through Madam Chair to whoever wants to take this, Wanda or Mark. I do believe I asked this question last meeting, but it's slipped my mind what the answer I got. On page 373 on the municipal levies summary, the year-over-year percentage levy increase is 11.1 for Durham region. And was that for where everyone else was 2, 3, and 4? Was there special benefiting projects that were driving that? We talked about this.
Through you, Madam Chair, certainly. And you'll see that the general operating for the region of Durham is 2.5%.
Yes.
But the 11% is a mix between the municipal assessment along with the projects that the region has indicated that would like.
Okay, so it's.
There are additional.
Yeah, I'll write that down this time.
Thank you. What Mark said last time.
Must have said, thank you very much.
Okay, Tracy?
Through you, just perhaps the chair, like a comment through you is the fact that we do get to see the process throughout the year with this budget, and I think it really helps us have a better understanding when we're getting close to the deadline. So I know I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's all done from Kawartha Lake, so then, there you go. It's special benefiting, the flood forecasting or the flood study. If we don't get the money from the province, then that's just not done, right?
That would be the floodplain.
Yeah, floodplain mapping.
Yes, yeah, so if the province does not, through the federal government, it's actually federal government funding. If they don't provide funding for the floodplain, then we'll wait for another intake period and try and get the funding for that project.
Maybe we could go through Conservation Ontario.
It's the same deal.
Okay, alrighty. Jerry,
To the chair, so the two positions that you're still trying to fill for staffing, is that gonna have any real impact at all? As those situations remain vacant, that money's set aside for.
Oh my, through you, Madam Chair. Through you, Madam Chair, the positions have been filled, but pardon me, positions have been budgeted, not filled
That's
at
right.
this point in time.
That's right.
But we anticipate they will be filled very quickly in 2025. We're in the middle of a process.
Okay, I
Yeah,
just wondered where you were with that as far as the number of applicants and.
no, we're making excellent progress.
any other questions? Okay, so, resolve that the draft 2025 budget be approved for consultation purposes and that a notice of meeting to approve the budget is provided to participating municipalities for January 30th, 2025. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Okay, Kriya, second by Tracy, all in favor? Carried. Okay, any new business? No. Reports and updates from board members. Does anybody have anything they want to share? Okay, I reached out to KRCA. We're the Environmental Advisory Committee is formed a task force to look at a tree bylaw and a shoreline tree bylaw and with different people. So I don't know if you've reached out to staff to
Yep, I
see
have,
if
and
anybody's
we'll have a representative for you.
interested.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so keep trying to do that.
You said you reached out to KR?
CA,
Core three.
Oh, sorry, Kawartha region.
yeah,
Okay. I'm just wondering, I mean,
our conservation authority.
do have a lot of residents in my ward on Lake Simcoe who are looking for like a lakeside tree bylaw. Because right now we use the region of Durham, so that it really doesn't apply and we need something more local, but I'm just wondering how I could maybe work with you on that, or how we could take what you do and.
Sure, we'll probably be zooming, so you can, yeah. It's not super structured,
Yeah.
so yeah, absolutely.
Because I'd really like to do something with that, for
Yeah.
that part of Lake Simcoe.
Yeah. Well, I don't know specifically for that, but this is going to be for the city. So,
Right.
yeah.
Could I, through my position here, be a member of that group or somehow?
Well, you can watch because it's going to be Kawartha Lakes.
Okay.
So, but you're more than
Okay,
welcome
just
to.
watch it, take it in. And
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to be added to an interested person.
Sure. Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
I'm setting it up, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Harold.
Yes, just as a note, if after the Christmas season, Ken Reed is over, if anyone has any energy left at all, they can come to Port Perry to the Santa Claus Parade.
Yay.
I think that same weekend, it's the Bob Cajun one too, so.
It's a busy weekend.
Yeah. Oh, no, I think it's the week after. There you go. Yeah,
7th?
yeah. No, it's the 14th. Yeah,
14th.
yeah.
Okay.
yeah. So any other comments or? Okay, so we have no closed. So I just need a motion to adjourn. Don't all jump at the same time. Jerry and Priya, all in favor?
Just
Oh.
don't wanna go home.
Yeah, you're just enjoying yourself so much. Thank you.
December.
Oh, yes, and December. So what do you folks, would you like to have a December meeting or would you like to have a Christmas get together? Your call?
We had Kriya bought Christmas cake last year, I remember.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah,
I did, the real deal. So we're scheduled for a meeting on Thursday, the 19th.
yeah. So, you know, we can forego that or have a get together, whatever you wish.
Thursday the 19th. So,
Make an executive decision.
I am always up for a party,
no, it's in there.
so, let's just see here, the 19th. Well, we can get together and just have social. Why not? People okay with that?
Do you want a board piece to that too? Just hit some really quick business, like it'd be my update, and permits and not a whole else.
Sure,
Lot else.
sure.
And,
We'll do a little bit of business, a little bit of fun, all good. Okay, sounds like a plan. Okay.
Hey,
Mhm.
What's that?
are you picking a day?
It's nice.
It's the 19th.
Yeah. special.
Yeah, so getting a bit close to Christmas, but okay. So we're adjourned. So, hey, we'll see you next time.